Hey everyone, welcome to this deck review. I'm Anya Esma. We are going to be looking at this Japanese tarot deck together. Look at the packaging, look at the little book, look at each and every single card. I'm very excited about this because it was given to me by a very good friend, and there is a lot of beautiful symbolism in it, a lot of Shintoism, a lot of, just Japanese folklore in general. And there's also some Western symbolism, but in unusual cards. So we are going to take a look at these amazing, amazing Japanese tarot cards. And there's also some continuity in them that absolutely blew my mind. Some symbols, some characters going through the deck that I only noticed when I filmed this review that you are about to see. So I'm very excited. And it also has a special feature that I'm going to show you. But we're going to get into that in just a minute. What we are going to do today is we are going to do close-ups of all the cards. It's a Major Arcana only deck, so it's not going to take 5 hours. So it's only 22 cards technically, but we will get to that. It's not just 22, but we'll get to that. And I'm going to talk to you about what I liked about the deck, the basics, and we are going to discuss the symbolism. So if you are interested in Japanese symbolism, Shintoism, then this is definitely a really cool thing for you to watch. I don't know where to get the deck, unfortunately, so I can't help you with that. But I think it's still going to be a lot of fun. So let's talk about the basics first. I can't read Japanese. So all I can really say is that the packaging says something about Japan. I think I was told it just says Japanese tarot deck, as far as I can tell. Now, it is a Major Arcana only deck. What does that mean? A normal tarot deck has the Minor Arcana and the Major Arcana, 78 cards altogether. The Minor Arcana is 56 cards, like in a normal card game. And then the Major Arcana, which are more the major spiritualistic points of our life journey, are 22 cards, and it is only those 22 cards that are in this deck. It's an incredibly cute box. The back of the card is actually the back of the box. I love it. I love the format of the cards because they actually have this long format that kind of reminds me of Sailor Moon, where Ray or Sailor Mars always had these prayer slips. I don't know the actual term for them, that had this shape. So I'm really into the shape of them. I learned Chinese, so I can read a little bit. That's why I can identify the symbols for Japan, but that's about it. But I have been able to identify, if you look at the little booklet, which is very, very cool. It has a table with cards, it has mini versions of the cards, and it has interpretations for all of them. But if you look in there, there's literally one thing in Latin letters, and that is the name of the email address of the website of the artist. So I know that it is by someone called Yamamoto Naoki. That's all I know, literally. If you Google him, you find like a race car driver, but that's not him. So if you go to yamamotonaoki.com, you can see the art there, but it's all in Japanese, so that didn't tell me much either. Now let us get to the special thing of this deck, because the first time I was looking through the cards and I got to the end of it, I was like, oh God, choke me. Because there's actually 5 extra cards. And I know that's nothing anyone should freak out about this much, but it was just mind-blowing to me. These 5 extra cards are basically alternative versions of other cards. So for the High Priestess, the Empress, the Chariot, the Moon, and the World, we have alternative cards, alternative artwork. So overall, we actually have 27 instead of 22 cards, and these also have their own interpretations in the guidebook. So enough talk about the basics. Let us jump into the card-by-card close-ups, but after that, I am going to talk about those cards side by side. I'm going to show you the old High Priestess and the alternative High Priestess and all of the other cards side by side, and we can see which one we actually like better. But for now, let's go through the 22 main cards. So here we are with the close-ups of all of the cards. We're going to look through all 22 of them right now, and I'm going to go through the symbolism and sort of explain it related to some of the Japanese background that the symbols have, or just simply go with the flow and sort of go with what comes to my mind as I look at them. So the first card that we have is the Fool, of course, and what I find very interesting as the first thing that I notice here is that instead of a dog, which is the traditional animal in the Fool card, you have a pig here. And instead of it being on a cliff, you have this setting of a bridge being sort of broken, like it's broken right here and there's waves going everywhere, sort of, you know, destroying the bridges. And I think that that is super, super interesting because with the cliff that we usually have, we have this idea of not being able to go back. And if you look at broken bridges or breaking bridges, bridges that are in danger, you have the same idea of not being able to go back, but it's in a more creative context. And it also has a lot to do with trust that everything will be fine, because this person looks very relaxed considering that there's waves thrashing against the bridges and the bridge is broken. They're just standing there chilling. And I really like this idea of trust and this idea of not being able to go back and being fine with it. So as the second card, we have the Magician, and once again, we have the bridge symbolism. This is going to pop up in some other cards as well. I like that we have a female magician here, and she is sort of reconstructing a path upwards. She is watching as the bridge goes to the heavens, goes to the sky. So we have this very classical for the magician, this classical reference to being a receptacle or being a connector to divine knowledge, to divinity, to what is beyond us, what is above us. And it sort of looks like she is constructing this bridge with magic. You know, her hand is sort of pointing towards it, protecting it. Of course, you have the 4 symbols, the sword, the cup. I suppose this is a spear, but maybe it's supposed to be a wand. But yes, so it's sort of traditional, sort of not traditional, but definitely an interesting take on it, this connection to what is beyond us through a literal bridge that she summons. And of course, I think there's also a snake. Yes, here we have a little snake. So we have this idea of knowledge, of transformation. We have white roses, red roses, which have so many meanings. You know, a rose is a rose is a rose, as they say, that you can't even begin to settle on one single meaning for these roses. So this card, I feel, is very, very potent. Now we move on to the High Priestess. This is one of the cards that has an alternative artwork as well. We're going to look at that after I go through the 22 cards, and I will judge whether I like the original or the alternative better. So look forward to that at the end. And I think what is my favorite part about this High Priestess is that she's underwater. You see there's bubbles here, signifying that she is actually submerged. And obviously there's a shark swimming next to her. So it's a very welcome change to the usual High Priestess who sits in front of pillars. And the water is beyond those pillars. So here we have a High Priestess who is already in the depths and already surrounded by the darkness or the danger that sometimes comes with it, but she is entirely calm about it. And I think that that is a very potent image here and a very interesting idea that I haven't seen in another deck, to see the High Priestess already in the water, even though, of course, behind her she still sort of has the pillar idea, a gate that you can go through, but nevertheless, she is underwater. So it's a bit of a different take on it. Let me know what you think about this one, because I think it's really interesting and I could ramble on forever about it. So let me know what you think of this little turn of symbolism. Then next we have the Empress. Empress? What the hell is an Empress? The Empress. Yes, grain. You know, I live for the scepter that she has right there. I almost pointed at the screen of the phone that I'm recording with instead of at the actual card. That was silly. And I think it's quite interesting that you have this curtain behind her that is opening. At least it looks like a curtain to me. I don't know what you think of it. And it sort of picks up that symbolism of the pillars from the High Priestess card here. I quite like that. Then we have the Emperor. Beautiful sun symbolism with this marvelous decoration on his throne. Of course, the rising sun and the emperors of Japan are very intertwined in their symbolism. You also have a waterfall in the background, which I find very interesting. What do we think of that? And I also find the bunny, the rabbit, quite interesting as well. Bit of a King of Cups vibe with the waterfall and the rabbit as this little innocent animal. Let me know what you think of it and what you make of the waterfall combined with this sun symbol. I think it's a very interesting card. I'm trying to go a bit faster so we don't sit here for the next 5 hours. So next we have the Hierophant. I adore the headpiece. Look at that. It's scrolls of knowledge essentially framing her head, not dissimilar to the sun crown that the king had or the sun throne that the king had. So we have this idea of being backed by knowledge, which I quite enjoy. And then, of course, there's lotus flowers right here, or one big lotus flower and 2 next to her. Sort of the pillar idea, once again, this idea of very symmetrical things. And of course, the lotus flower has, like the rose, a lot of meanings of renewal, of rebirth, of spiritual insight as well, and calmness. So she is not dissimilar as well to the High Priestess in her position and in the whole vibe we have here. The Lovers. Now, this is an interesting one because these people, I think, might come up later again, depending on it, but we'll get to that later. It works very well reversed as well. Look at this. You reverse it, and then you have her upright, him and her the wrong way around. So I quite enjoy when decks do this, but not in every card. I know there's some decks that have every card is completely reversible, but I think it's more interesting if it's just a few cards that are like that. I think it's also interesting that he offers her an apple. Look at that. You know, if it sort of has this Christian influence in this, because the apple obviously with Adam and Eve has a lot to do with sinning and with gaining knowledge and with doing things you're not supposed to do. And it's interesting that he offers it to her because usually it's the woman who is the bad knowledge seeker who offers the apple to the man. Yeah, so I really dig the colors as well. The pink, the pastel, the yellow. It's all quite beautiful. Now we have the Chariot next. Of course, that is my soul card. And I don't vibe with the traditional horses and wagon symbolism. I think if you've watched my channel for a little while, you may have heard this before. The Chariot is kind of a complicated card for me because I need to enjoy it because it's my soul card, but at the same time I feel like a lot of chariots are quite boring and are quite traditional, so I really appreciate this one because the horses and the wagon, it just feels too colonial. So I feel like I just have too much to say about this card and how beautiful it is, because you have the rainbow colors, you have the blue lipstick, you have the Wheel of Fortune imagery almost. You have this idea of faithfulness through the Wheel of Fortune, but it's woven into something. It's like there's a little, what do you call this? I forgot. I wish I was a native speaker. A wool thing. I'm sure you guys will tell me in the comments. So yeah, and then you have the this sort of bamboo look on it. And here you have another bamboo. If you've seen my review of the Shadowscapes tarot, you also know that bamboo is a favorite symbol of mine because it is strong, but it bends. You cannot break it very easily. It's super sturdy, but it also bends and adapts. So I think it's a very beautiful metaphor of adapting to situations. And in that, this almost feels like the Wheel of Fortune card to me, interestingly. So yeah, there's also an alternative artwork of it that I quite enjoy. We'll get to that later after I go through all of these cards. Now next, obviously, we have Strength. Very, very interesting card because you have the sturgeon here. And in China, at least, there's the legend that sturgeons, or fish in general, I believe it's sturgeons, swim up the Yellow River, the Huanghe, and those who succeed to swim up to, I think it's called Dragon's Gate Waterfall, transform into dragons. So it's a very, very fitting image for strength because it is summoning the power to transform. It is gaining insight through experiences and transforming yourself through experiences. Excuse me. And that is why this symbol is so potent here, the sturgeon. And I think it's interesting that he looks quite evil. Because he looks, if you know anything about anime or traditional Japanese like imagery, this is what an evil person looks like. So I think that's quite interesting as well. So let's move on to the Hermit. Now, this is another one where you have to be a little bit familiar with Japanese symbolism and Japanese mythology because he is displayed as a Tengu, which is very typical with the red nose. They are essentially beings that are sort of demons, but half human, usually half human. And they usually live very secluded in mountains, in forests, and it lures people into its domain or just tries to seduce them by offering them something. Sometimes they offer them enlightenment, but actually they try to lead people away from enlightenment by getting them into their domain. That is sort of the traditional symbolism of Tengus. And what I find quite interesting is that usually the Hermit is the one who leads you to enlightenment, but with this twist of symbolism, he's actually the one leading you away from it. So this card is also a very good warning sign, like don't focus on yourself too much, don't be seduced by certain things that seem nice, but will lead you away from your purpose or will lead you away from your enlightenment. So I think that's quite interesting. Then we have the Wheel of Fortune. There's a lot going on in this card. It didn't resonate much with me at the beginning. What do you think? It's another great reversed card though, obviously. But you might want to keep these characters in mind because they will pop up again. And that's actually the reason I don't mind the card so much because, it's one of the important... it sort of sets up the story between these two people that will pop up later. So we will see them. We'll see them again as we go through the deck. Now, quite interesting that there's so much fire symbolism, that there is this little fire sprite. I don't know if the wheel itself is supposed to be sort of a dragon or if this is all part of the little fire sprite. Yeah, let me know what you think of it. Let me know how it resonates, how it doesn't resonate with you. Then Justice. What I love about this card is that there is actually a huge demon behind her that you can't really see. But see, here you see its wrist down here. This is sort of going into its hands. And then here you can see an eye, a horn, and a tooth. So this is quite the dangerous being behind her. So I love this idea of being backed by a very powerful, unknown danger. That's sort of cool. because you just feel like once she makes her judgment with the sword, with the scales, very traditional, this is the demon she is going to use to serve her justice and to make her judgment. So I think it's a very, very awesome card, honestly. Now the Hanged Man, huge snakes. I have to like those, you know that. The snake symbolism for the Hanged Man is actually something that I enjoy very, very much because, as I said, snakes are about rebirth. Snakes are about reframing things. They are about gaining new knowledge and about sort of intertwining yourself with new ideas. And I think that that is a fantastic symbol for the Hanged Man. I actually didn't see before that there is this snake like almost eating her, getting ready to eat her. So you also have another transformative element going through the belly of the snake, if you will. It's quite a dangerous Hanged Man card, and she doesn't look entirely relaxed like the Hanged Man usually does. But I think it still has this vibe of insights, of epiphanies, but more in a way of death and rebirth than the traditional Hanged Man. Now we have Death. Kill me now. This Death card makes me blush. Like, it is amazing. The first time I saw this card, whew, wow. Because, you know what's interesting? I told you that we would see those people from the Wheel of Fortune again, and indeed, that is the same woman. That is the same woman. She's going to pop up a few more times, but it took me a while to understand. But look, it's the same crown, it's the same hair, it's the same gown she is wearing. But that's not really why I fell in love with this card in the first place. It's mostly because you have so much in this card. You have this river going towards the red sun. You have this mountain that has hemp rope wrapped around it. This actually relates to Shintoism because it is customary in Shintoism for sacred or pure spaces or spaces that should be purified to have this rope wrapped around them. So either it signifies that spirits live within this stone or tree or whatever it is wrapped around, or it is purifying the space that the rope is around. Then you also have Magatama somewhere in this card, right? Her necklace is full of Magatamas, which are a ceremonial symbol. You also see them here again, those as well. So it can have a lot of meanings. It's just a general ceremonial symbol in Japanese culture. And she's just so beautiful. Like, look at her. Let's just look at that for a second. I can't. Amazing. And I love the fact that you only see half of her, so maybe the other half of her face or something is actually still intact. But we will get to that later because we will see her again. Now let's talk about Temperance. Her hair, oh my goddess. It has the shape of a chrysanthemum. Maybe some of you know that I have a chrysanthemum tattoo. It's a beautiful flower. It signifies change. It signifies transformations because it is also a traditional autumnal flower. And that is why I quite appreciate that her hair looks like that, because it gives this whole card also a feeling of transformation, a feeling of change and figuring things out, bringing things into balance, as is customary with Temperance. Now, the threads that she has, quite interesting, because usually they would be associated with the Wheel of Fortune or other fate-related cards. So it's very interesting to see it here. Let me know what you think of that, of Temperance holding this thread, shortening it. Yeah. Not quite sure what to make of it yet, so let me know. Also nice. You have red fluid, blue fluid kind of coming together. So this idea of alchemy is present in this card as well. Here we have the Devil. Good old Devil protecting a girl. Daddy protecting his child. It's a cool card. I feel like it's a bit different from, like, the vibe is a bit different from the other cards. I don't know if that's just me. Then in the back here, you have a volcano that is erupting. You have this whole daddy's little girl dynamic going on. Who could say no to that? And yeah. Then we have the Tower. Here we have her again. Here we have her again. The person from the Death card, the person from the Wheel of Fortune card. We have her half skeleton, half alive. Now, listen. When I first realized it was the same woman, I was like, man, this deck is legit. Because death is sort of a calm transformation. You know, she is with a spiritual mountain, with spirits present probably. But the tower is a violent transformation. And if you didn't listen, if you stored up that stagnant energy, if you didn't go through the calm transformation of death, if you ignored the signs, then you get a tower moment. And that is what this is. That is what this card is. The not listening, the ignoring. You have once again the fiery red liquid, or even just fire, and the blue liquid, like in the Temperance card, but completely out of balance. Going all over the place. So this motif of having lost control and things just erupting rather than being put in order by you is very important here. And she is like in the middle of going through that transformation, half skeleton, half human. I adore this card. I adore it. Now, the Star. So we need to have a quick talk about gender here, because I really like it when decks break with traditional gender roles or kind of swap genders around. And I'm not going to say that this deck is very, woke, because obviously all the women are very sexualized and everything, but I never mind that. I never mind that. But still, what I find interesting is that a lot of decks swap the sex of the figures from male to female. Like, for example, having the female presenting Magician or the female presenting Hierophant, but very few decks put male presenting figures in the position where usually you have female presenting figures. And that is what is the case here. Usually the Star is a woman, and here we have a much more masculine person, sort of smiling and being at peace with themselves. And I like that idea a lot. You also have a hexagram here, the 6-pointed star. That's often a symbol of the combination of all the elements. It's very powerful in occultism. So everything is sort of coming together in this card. You have all of the elements sort of coming together. That is what the 6-pointed star often refers to. And interestingly, you have the blue liquid again, like in Temperance, like in the Tower, but no red liquid this time. The Moon, oh my gosh. I live for this card. She has a sword, she has a frilly dress, a moon. I can't even. Like, seriously, what do you think of this card? Isn't it the most beautiful thing ever? This also has an alternative artwork. I can't wait to show that to you. It's also beautiful. It's hard to decide which one I like more. So once again, like in some other cards, she has this temple portal behind her. I love it. I'm not sure about the symbolism of the dogs. It's probably some sort of animal spirit thing going on. I feel like there's a legend in Japan about 2 dogs like this, but let me know if you know it in the comments, and educate everyone. But yes, like, just look at her. I think I can't even find the words to accurately describe how much I like this card. It's scary, she has this scary look. You can imagine her in a horror movie slaughtering people, but at the same time it has this calmness and this sense of serenity with the moon behind her. So it's the perfect moon card for me, honestly, because it has horror, but it also has insight and calmness, as is customary with the moon. Now, only a few more cards to go. The Sun. Now, way back, remember, this is sort of waving back towards the Emperor who had his sun thrown like that. Once again, you have a huge lotus flower like in the Hierophant card, kind of repeating symbolism here of the Emperor and the Hierophant. And it's beautiful. It's kind of the pastel pink and yellow aesthetic that the Lovers card had as well. And I like her face. I like her position. She's very demanding, very governing. It has a very intense energy. And there's no child in this. Usually, you know, the Sun card has a child to sort of represent the inner child and the new self being born. But here, the new self that is being born out of the lotus flower, out of insight, is actually her, grown up, not a child. So interesting. Let me know what you think of that. Now, Judgment. Another very, very interesting card and very untraditional, I feel like. It has a black bird, sort of a black phoenix almost. The way the feathers are, it just reminds me of a phoenix. And it has the same magatamas around its neck as the death figure, or that lady that we keep seeing in the Tower card, in the Death card, in the Lovers, no, not the Lovers card, in the Wheel of Fortune it was. Yes, so we have the same magatamas, and it's attacking or holding a seashell. I'm not quite sure. This really feels like some next level symbolism that I can't quite process right now. So what do we think this means? What do we think of the seashell sort of, I don't know, the bird kind of trying to get to the soft parts of it, trying to get inside the shell, maybe also a metaphor for gaining knowledge or vulnerability or something like that. Let me know what you think. The World. When I first saw this card, I wasn't too taken by it. I didn't care for it much. But when I looked more closely in order at all of the cards, it fucking hit me that this is the same woman and the same man as in the Wheel of Fortune, the same woman as in Death and the Tower. And yeah, he's not anywhere else, I think. I don't know. Wave symbolism is what we have again. We have the, you know, the blue liquid going around like in the Fool. And honestly, I have been wondering whether these are actually, let me find the other one, the same people as in the Lovers card. But I'm not entirely convinced, but they could be. What do you think? If this is like younger versions of these people, because, you know, they are the two people, or at least she is the person who kind of goes through the whole deck. She's everywhere. She's not the Fool. I already looked at that. I was like, maybe they are the Fool. Maybe that means that she's the one going through the deck. But the Fool looks very nondescript. They are blonde, and yeah, you couldn't say that that's actually her. So yeah, but I think these actually might be the same people. So that concludes that, and now we're going to go back to my face to look at the alternative artwork for all of these cards, and I will also give you my final thoughts. Now let's talk about the special cards. Welcome back to my face. We are going to talk about the 5 extra cards that have alternative artwork now. Let's talk about the High Priestess first, because that's the first card in the deck that has an alternative. With the old High Priestess and the new High Priestess, I think what I find most interesting is that the new one has the same bridge as the Magician, but it is intact, and it goes from the sky, from the moon, towards the water below her. And she is above water rather than underwater, which I think is a very interesting turn here. If you read with this deck, and I read with it with these alternative cards mixed in actually, you have a lot of depth of meaning, because you know that you just drew the High Priestess that is above water, not the one that's underwater. So that has a different symbolism, and I quite enjoy that. Which one do we like better? The main one, the alternative one? I have to say I really do like both equally in this case. Let me know in the comments what you think. But I think both of them are very cool and have their own very nuanced meanings. That's why I can't really say no to either of them. Now the second card is the Empress that has an alternative artwork. These are very, very similar to each other. As you can see, the position is very, very similar. The person looks similar, but the art seems a little more refined, almost as if it's maybe the old one is like a 5-year-old version and the new one is from today or something like that. Like the artist has changed his style a little bit. The symbolism isn't as divergent as with the 2 High Priestess cards. I love her crown in the new one. It's a great symbol. So which one do we like better? I personally have to say that I like the new one better, or the alternative one, not the old one, because I think the art style just seems a tiny bit more refined for me. The third card that has alternative artwork is the Chariot. Now, I've said before, I am living for this old Chariot. I absolutely adore it, but I also adore the new Chariot, the alternative Chariot, whatever you want to call it. So they are very different. You still have the rainbow elements in the alternative one. You have oxen, actually. I love that. I also love the fan that she is holding that has a top on top of it. I think that this is just so full of symbolism and so full of beauty that I cannot resist it. So, which one do we like better? I personally like both and feel like they together make the whole picture. One of them is more about slowness and more about a steady pace, and the other one, the newer one, is more about that freewheeling, crazy power that the Chariot also incorporates. So I think both of them together are really the key here, and if they come up together in a reading, how great would that be? Oh, my voice. I'm still sick, so how great would that be? That's what I was trying to say. So the fourth card is the Moon that has alternative symbolism, alternative artwork. I love both of them. I love both of them so much. They are very similar. The background is actually identical with the moon and the purple sky going on, but I am living for the white snake in the alternative one. It is absolutely stunning. The sword, the snake, I can't. So I can't actually decide which one I love more. What do you think? I have to say the new one probably. I have to say the alternative one because... But the old one is so beautiful. Like, she looks like one of those killer dolls that is going to murder you, and I really appreciate that as well. So it's hard to decide. Now, this by far is the most interesting one, I think, the world, because in the alternative version, we see a much more traditional depiction. We have a single person in the middle, and then in the 4 corners, you have the traditional representations of the 4 elements, just like in a Rider-Waite-Smith tarot deck. So it is much less love-focused than the new card is that has 2 people on it. Which one do we like better? I'm not so sure. I think the continuity of the world card that I talked about in the card by card walkthrough, I really appreciate that. You know, that it's the 2 people who have popped up before in this deck. However, I have to say that I like the more traditional version with the fans, with the woman with the heavy makeup or even a mask that she's wearing. I like that a little bit better. But at the same time, I'm not mad if either of them come up. It just seems more potent to me in this alternative version and less love focused, because the world and the lovers, you kind of have to differentiate them. And the alternative one is definitely more into that differentiated direction. So that's it. I'm going to link some more in-depth reviews because I love talking about symbolism and tarot. I have some for the Shadowscapes tarot, the Wild Unknown tarot. I'm going to link all of that below. Some of those videos are quite old. You'll have to bear with me and the bad sound, but I hope you enjoy them anyways. I adore this deck so much. I have been working with it and it's been great looking at all the symbols, kind of relearning Japanese and Shintoist symbolism is amazing. I can't thank that friend who gave it to me enough. I'm so happy to have people like that in my life who do that sort of stuff for me, who give me things that I love and I can give them things that they love and la la la. Anyway, I hope that you all enjoy your tarot sessions. I hope that you have the best of days. If there's anyone from Japan out there watching who knows where to get this deck, let me know. I will put the link in the description. Personally, I have no idea. So yeah, have the greatest of days. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe to me, like this video. I really like doing these long form deep dives into the symbolism of a deck because it really motivates me to take kind of a different look at each deck so that I can offer value to you guys, and that makes me really happy. So I'm always happy when I get to do these. I'm excited. Have a great day, have a great week, and I will see you very, very soon.